Welcome to Fred's 10-minute marketing courses.
Today, we are discussing Feed AI, not the other way around, written by Fred Jame.
And AI is absolutely everywhere in marketing right now.
Oh, everywhere. You cannot escape it.
Right. Like if you are scrolling through your phone and you stop on an ad that perfectly grabs your attention, or if you find yourself reading a brand's email that just completely sucks you in.
There is a very high probability that artificial intelligence is powering that experience behind the scenes.
Yeah, it is wild to think about how fast this technology has shifted from a futuristic concept to an everyday tool.
Extremely fast.
It is changing how brands connect with you on a fundamental level.
Yeah.
But with that speed comes a whole lot of chaos on the front lines.
There is a tremendous amount of chaos. I mean, the technology is undeniably powerful. But Fred Jame warns of a massive pitfall that marketers are stumbling right into.
The lazy thinking pitfall.
Exactly. It is a phenomenon the author calls lazy thinking. And as someone who has managed marketing teams for years, I can tell you this is a very real, very dangerous trap.
Oh, I bet you see it all the time.
I do. It is incredibly tempting for a team under a tight deadline to look at a blank screen, open a prompt window, and just ask the machine to do their jobs for them.
Which is exactly why we are having this discussion today. We want to bring you in on this to uncover Fred Jame's 4-step process for mastering human-AI collaboration.
Because the goal here is simple. We want to ensure you control the technology rather than letting the technology control you.
Let us start by unpacking that concept of lazy thinking, because Fred James shares this cautionary tale that perfectly illustrates what happens when things go wrong in a corporate environment.
Oh, the proofreading story.
Yes. He describes a company that recently decided to use AI to write their marketing copy, but they skipped all the strategic brainstorming.
They completely bypassed the human element.
Right. They did not sit down to figure out their core messaging, and they completely ignored trying to understand the customer journey. They simply threw some basic top-level information at the AI and essentially told the software to take the wheel.
And the craziest part of that story is what they did next.
It gets worse.
It gets so much worse. After they let the AI generate everything blindly without any creative direction, they actually took that generated copy and used another AI tool to proofread it.
A robot checking a robot's work.
Precisely. They completely removed the human touch from the entire workflow. You really have to appreciate the sheer efficiency of automating your own irrelevance.
Wow. That is a great way to put it.
From a management perspective, it is the ultimate red flag. When a team operates like that, they are not producing marketing. They are just manufacturing noise.
It is funny in a dark way, but it is also a huge wake-up call. Because when you take the human entirely out of the equation, you lose the soul of the message.
You lose the way.
Right. Relying on an algorithm without a solid plan or without understanding its inherent limitations is a massive trap. The big takeaway for you here is that artificial intelligence should augment your thinking and elevate your skills, not replace your brain entirely.
If we connect this to the broader strategy, the natural question becomes, how do we actually avoid that trap? What does the day-to-day workflow look like if we want to ensure we are augmenting and not replacing?
And Fred Jame lays out a very specific, actionable 4-step process for effective human-AI collaboration to do exactly that.
He does, and step 1 happens long before you even open your browser to log into an AI tool. The author calls this first phase deep analysis.
So as a senior manager, what does that actually look like when someone on your team approaches a campaign? What does doing your homework really entail before the software gets involved?
It means laying the groundwork by bringing your human expertise to the table first. You have to understand your target audience, the current market conditions, and the product you are selling on a fundamental psychological level.
You cannot just outsource that.
You cannot outsource strategy to an algorithm. Before my team touches a prompt, I need them to know what keeps our customer awake at night. I need them to know what our competitors did last quarter. AI does not have that lived experience or contextual awareness.
That makes total sense. It is the classic garbage in, garbage out principle. If you feed the system a bunch of random, uninspired information, you cannot expect it to magically spit out a brilliant, emotionally resonant marketing campaign.
It just will not happen.
Because AI is fantastic at crunching massive amounts of data and spotting historical trends. But human intuition knows the why behind those trends. You, as a marketer, are the one who knows how to forge an emotional connection with another human being.
Exactly. An algorithm might tell you what keyword is trending online today, but it cannot tell you why that keyword actually matters to your specific customer's daily life.
That nuance is the difference between a campaign that converts and a campaign that gets ignored.
Once you have done that deep analysis, once you have mapped out the psychological landscape of your buyer and you truly understand the why, you are ready to move to step 2.
And this is where you finally bring the artificial intelligence in as a brainstorming partner.
Rather than treating it like a ghostwriter.
Yes, this is the active phase. And honestly, as a frontline marketer, it is my absolute favorite part of the process. Instead of letting the software loose on a terrifyingly blank page and hoping for the best, you give it highly specific direction.
Direction based on that step 1 homework.
Exactly. You base it on the deep analysis you just completed. You use the machine to break through writer's block and generate a massive volume of ideas really quickly.
Let us ground this in a practical scenario so you can see how this plays out in the real world. Imagine you are tasked with creating a new product tagline for a B2C smart gadget.
Okay. Let us say it is a piece of consumer electronics, specifically a next-generation smart home hub that connects all your appliances.
Perfect. And for clarity, when we say B2C, we mean business to consumer. You are selling this gadget directly to everyday people, not to other corporations.
Right.
If an employee engages in lazy thinking, they might just open an AI window and type, "Write a tagline for a smart hub."
Which is a terrible prompt.
The worst.
If you do that, you are just going to get generic corporate fluff back. It will spit out something completely forgettable, like the smart way to connect your home.
It means absolutely nothing.
It is so boring.
It is grammatically correct, but strategically bankrupt. Instead, if you follow Fred Jame's method, you feed the AI your specific product specifications, you detail your exact B2C target demographic.
Like maybe busy working parents who are overwhelmed by having 10 different apps to control their lights and security cameras.
Exactly. You list the key features that differentiate your gadget from the major competitors. You dictate the tone you want, which might be reassuring and modern. You outline the pain points of the consumer.
And when you give it that level of detail, the results are incredible. In seconds, the software acts as a super-powered brainstorming partner. It offers dozens of angles and options you might not have ever considered.
It gives you variety.
Yes, instead of generic fluff, you might get options focusing on the time-saving aspect, like one cap, total peace of mind. Or it might focus on the aesthetic or the security features. You might be feeling stuck, staring at a blinking cursor, and suddenly you have 50 different creative directions to explore.
It gets those creative juices flowing in a way that just was not possible a few years ago.
It really accelerates the ideation phase.
It certainly does. But let us not get carried away, because that brings us to step 3. And from a management perspective, this is where the real work actually begins.
The quality control phase.
Step 3 is quality control. You have to step back in and be the human editor. Because the reality is, the raw material you get from any AI is far from perfect.
We're not even close to perfect. I see this all the time. People assume because the output is formatted nicely, it is ready to publish.
It is a very dangerous assumption. AI lacks genuine nuance. It frequently misses the specific established tone of a brand. When you ask it for 50 taglines, maybe 2 or 3 of those ideas are absolute gems.
And the other 47 are total duds.
Complete duds. They might use overly dramatic language or sound like a robot trying to mimic human emotion, or they might just be entirely legally problematic for the brand to claim.
That is exactly why you have to put your human hat back on. You have to comb through that massive output with a highly critical eye. You toss out the bad ones immediately, and then you take the good ones and refine them.
You do the polishing.
Right. You tweak the vocabulary to match your brand's unique voice. It is an active, collaborative back-and-forth process. You are not just blindly accepting what the machine gives you. You are sifting through the dirt to find the diamond in the rough, and then you are the one polishing it.
Which is a perfect segue into step 4, approval and oversight. This is the final check. It involves getting the refined work approved by a senior manager, a client, or whoever ultimately owns the overarching business strategy.
Why is that formal approval step so critical in the context of AI? Does it really differ from approving a purely human-written campaign?
It differs because of the sheer volume and speed at which AI content can be generated, which greatly increases the risk of subtle errors slipping through unnoticed. This final check ensures that the refined content actually aligns with the overall business goals.
Because the AI does not have the big picture.
Exactly. AI does not know our quarterly revenue targets. It does not know the nuances of our legal compliance guidelines. At the end of the day, artificial intelligence is merely a tool. It is not a replacement for human judgment and executive decision-making.
The human absolutely must remain in the driver's seat.
If a campaign goes sideways because an AI hallucinated a product feature, the software does not get fired. The marketer does. You are the one accountable for the final result.
That accountability factor is huge. And what is really interesting as we unpack these 4 steps is how Fred Jame points out that this power dynamic applies to virtually any field, not just marketing.
It is universal.
The discussion around AI integration is happening everywhere, in every industry. To drive this home, the author uses this incredibly thought-provoking analogy about the medical field. Imagine if doctors started relying entirely on AI to diagnose their patients.
It is a sobering thought, and it perfectly illustrates the stakes of lazy thinking.
Right, like imagine you go to the doctor because you're feeling awful. But instead of the doctor listening to your actual concerns or looking at your complex medical history or just looking you in the eye to observe how you are physically presenting, they just punch your basic symptoms into a software program.
They just type it in and wait.
Yeah, they hit enter and they blindly accept whatever diagnosis the machine spits out.
That scenario completely ignores the human context.
Yeah.
It relies solely on cold data without the critical nuance of human experience. A machine might see a list of symptoms and determine one illness, while a human doctor might notice a slight tremor in a patient's hand or hear a specific tone in their voice that changes the diagnosis entirely.
It is terrifying to think about in a medical context, but that is exactly why it is such a brilliant comparison. It highlights what is truly at stake when we talk about lazy thinking in our own daily work. We cannot just outsource our critical thinking.
We cannot abdicate our responsibility to fully understand the tools we are using, regardless of what industry we are in.
That brings us to Fred Jame's core metaphor, which I believe is the most crucial insight in the entire text. It boils down to the fundamental difference between feeding AI and being fed by AI.
I love that phrasing. Feeding AI versus being fed by AI. It really makes you stop and evaluate your own daily habits at the office.
It forces a hard look in the mirror. It asks us a fundamental question about our relationship with technology. Are you actively using the tool to enhance your own abilities? Are you feeding it your deep strategy, your market research, and your unique human insights?
Or are you sitting back passively, letting the software spoon-feed you generic answers without applying any critical thought of your own?
It is the difference between being an active creator and a passive consumer of your own work.
Precisely. And the author warns that if this current trend of lazy thinking continues, the implications for the workforce are severe. We could easily see entire marketing teams replaced by algorithms.
That is a harsh reality.
Think about it from a business operations standpoint. If a team of marketers is just blindly passing raw data to a machine and then forwarding the machine's output to the client without adding any strategic value or critical editing, that team is no longer necessary. They've become an expensive, inefficient middleman.
Wow. That is an incredibly stark warning for anyone working in this field. But I also see it as a massive opportunity for the people who get this right.
It absolutely is an opportunity.
If you master this 4-step collaboration process, you become invaluable. To stay relevant, you have to stay deeply curious. You have to stay informed about market trends. And above all, you have to trust your gut instincts.
Your human intuition is your ultimate competitive advantage.
Right. It is the only thing that separates a truly memorable, emotionally resonant B2C campaign from a generic string of robotic buzzwords.
The technology is absolutely here to stay, but the human element is what actually makes the output valuable to a business. So as we wrap up our discussion today, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over.
A little homework.
Exactly. Tomorrow morning, when you sit down at your desk, open your laptop and boot up an AI tool, I want you to stop and ask yourself a very simple question. Are you providing the strategic why and actively guiding the process, or are you just letting the machine dictate your next move?
That is a great question.
I challenge you to inject at least one piece of unique human intuition, something only you could know from your own lived experience, into your prompts before you hit enter. Remind the machine who is actually in charge.
Thank you for listening. If you have any thoughts on today's episode or marketing topics, feel free to leave a comment below the video.
This is Fred's 10-Minute Marketing Courses. See you next time.